tool. This is
It
it's
is.
amazing. It's in the middle of the night. I mean, just drafting a response and then copy and paste it into ChatGPT, and I've programmed into it some points that they would like to address in a certain way, and I just say, okay, use our strategy, and then I get the answer back and can copy and
Yeah.
paste back, and be sure that nothing wrong comes out of my mouth. It's not like a live stream like now. Sachin, how are you doing today?
I'm absolutely good, Christian. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Where are you calling from?
So I'm based out of Munich,
Mhm.
based out of Microsoft Munich office, and yeah, this is where I'm speaking from.
How is Munich these days?
Amazing. I think the weather is getting colder now. I think we're gonna uh, miss the summer. So these 3 4 months we'll have less daylight and more uh, colder environment. So I think a lot of things to do inside rather than going outside. So that's how it's gonna be. But I love Munich. I think it's one of my favorite place to be in.
What do you like the most in Munich?
I think the exposure to international communities. All big companies have offices here, and very diverse people. Communities are here in Munich, and you have great infrastructure. I love it. And
Mhm.
even though Munich being one of the biggest cosmopolitan cities, it has a feel of an old age home city. It has a lot of parks. It has a lot of open areas. It has a lot of nice gardens. Very nice museums. So I love it. Munich is one of the finest city to live in.
Yeah, that's true. I couldn't agree more. My family is part of my family is from Munich, from Bavaria, actually.
Mhm.
It's a really great city. What do you recommend when someone travels to Munich? What should they do in Munich?
A lot. So it depends on what is your taste. And if you are a person who like to go to museum, there are amazing museums here, like Deutsche Museum. If you are into automotive, there is no better place to be in, right? Go to BMW Welt, look around the nice cars, and see what's coming in the future in the automotive space. And then if you really like open spaces, you wanted to have a good view of the Munich, go
Mm.
to Olympia Zentrum, right? You can have an amazing view of a sunrise and sunset. I think it's one of my favorite place to be in the early mornings to watch the sunrise. So Olympia Zentrum is an amazing. I mean, Olympia Park, I should say. Zentrum is a mall there. But Olympia Park is an amazing place to actually get a nice view from the hilltop of Munich.
Yeah, that's totally agreeable. And I'm sure that you drive 20 German cars. Is that right? You own them.
Yes, I do have a Mercedes, and I love it. I think I have GLC. It's a fascinating car,
Mhm.
amazing car. I love it, and I amazingly enjoy the automotive driving part of it. So yeah, I'm a big Mercedes fan, even though I live in Munich. But yeah, I like Mercedes.
Yeah, that's good. And the German motorways are great to
Oh
drive
yeah.
drive cars, especially in
Amazing,
the night.
amazing. Especially, so this is one of the thing. I'm spoiled in that way. I think every Friday night or every bi-weekly Friday night, I try to drive on those autobahns, and A9 is my favorite one, which
Mhm.
just goes across the Microsoft office. So I take my car, go for a long drive on that in the night, and come back late in the night. So this is something I love it a lot. Have my kurkuma tea with me, take my car and go for a nice ride.
Yeah, that's
It's
that's true.
amazing.
The German motorways are fantastic. I mean, they are long and straight, so
Yes.
you can really drive fast, and you don't have a maximum speed limit. So
Yes.
you have a theoretical speed limit, but practically in the night when nobody is on
Yeah,
the
but
motorway.
still, I think after you go more than 150, 160, that's where I feel, yeah, we need to be a bit more careful. I stopped relying on AI for
Mhm.
my for uh, after the speed of 150, I stopped relying on the self-driving part of it. I need to make sure I'm having a full control of the car. But you're right. And A9 is my favorite because it has a lot of straight stretches where you can really speed up, and you really enjoy the driving on autobahns.
Mm. Yeah, and the streets become very narrow the faster you go. So above
Yes.
150, 160, it's just interesting to see how narrow a motorway can become.
And isn't it amazing, Christian, that you are going at the speed of 180, feeling that you are really flying, and then there is suddenly a Porsche on the left overtaking you at the speed of
Yeah.
250 kilometer per hour, right? That's like, my God, that's fascinating. And I think
Yeah.
it only happens in Germany autobahns.
Yeah, I think so too. In Austria, it's not allowed. We have 130 max, and it's heavily monitored. I mean, the motorways are also different in the mountains.
So
But
that's a challenge for Germans going to the Austria, right? So when you go on the speed of 180, 190, you need to make sure when you're crossing the border so that you
yeah,
reach the speed of 130. Otherwise, you will get the ticket. So we
and
need to be careful when we are crossing the border.
that's true. And the interesting thing is, we have more curves on the motorways, especially in the mountains. I think, especially in Salzburg, also when you drive through Tyrol,
Yes.
and especially the German fast cars. So it's just funny to see them
Mm,
then drive with 80 maximum through the curves, where the Austrians just speed up and
that's
say, okay, it's 130 easily.
That's true. I think it's because of the landscapes. And I must also say, I think you are based out of Austria, right, Christian?
Mm,
And
mm.
Vienna is also one of my favorite place to be in. I mean, if you talk about the landscapes, I think Austria has amazing landscapes. If you really want to enjoy your drive, go to Austria. Go through those nice highways, which crosses through this nice landscapes on both sides of your window. So that's an amazing experience to drive in Austria.
Yeah, that's true. It's the southern part of Bavaria, Tyrol, Vorarlberg,
Yes,
Switzerland,
yes.
southern Tyrol in Italy. So this is really an amazing part. If you
Oh,
like
amazing,
mountains,
amazing. I mean, driving is an experience in these regions.
let's shift gears. Let's not dig too deep into how beautiful Europe is and Germany and Switzerland and cars. Let's get right to the topic
Yeah.
of our podcast, artificial intelligence. You mentioned it already with the car, that you turn off the AI parts when you want to drive fast. And I think everybody talks about it, and a lot of people
Yes.
speculate that we are in bubble territory on the stock market, and who needs that anyways? Let me ask you the first question. What development in artificial intelligence has blown your mind recently? In your world, you're an expert in AI, so what are we seeing, or what are you seeing that nobody else can see right now?
Actually, everybody can see it, and that has certainly blown my mind as well. The sophistication of these models, especially the multimodality of these models, and what I mean by that is, we have moved on from an age in an AI where we have to explain things to these applications, to these models, but now we are moving into a world where they will understand our environment well. They will understand the languages we speak. So rather than we understanding systems and computers, we are moving into an age where computers will understand us, and that is really satisfying and empowering, right? You can speak your language and they will do the work for you. You can show them a picture and they will do the task you wanted them to do for you. You can have a communication with them. They will not only just listen to your words, but they will also understand the semantic meaning of it. So this is something which has really fascinated me, how we are moving forward in this AI age. And uh, and also the pace at which the sophistication of these models are improving, this is simply flabbergasting. I mean, if you don't read anything just for 2 months, you will have a realization that how backward you have moved into, because the pace of technology innovation and the changes, it's simply flabbergasting.
Yeah, that's true. Think back to the 70s when a home computer was worked for 10 years, and now you have a new model every year, basically. A new iPhone,
Yes.
a new smartphone coming out every year.
Yes.
It's just speeding up.
That's true. That's true, Christian. I think it has completely changed the way we are working. It has completely changed the way we are seeing things around us are changing. And it also gave us a very interesting perspective that there is no upper limit to where we are heading. So I think it's clear to all of us that AI is here to stay. And and the way we have started working with this ecosystem, being an insider, I must tell you, there is no way we can go back to the older world. I don't want my productivity to go down. I don't want these innovations to take a backseat, because this has a great impact for all of us in the future.
I couldn't agree more. There's one point that you mentioned in the first part, that you say these models understand humans. I very often read a criticism on the internet that basically LLMs are just parroting back what they have in their database, and there's no intelligence behind it. It's just like someone reading something. How well do they understand humans really in the interaction?
I mean, amazingly well, Christian. I mean, I don't think so. It's true that they don't understand, because that has been the case earlier. So there is now a difference between a chatbot and an agent, right?
Mhm.
So these application can understand the emotional aspect of the tone in which you are speaking to these models, right? They can easily uh, carve out the information out of your pictures, what you are sharing it with them. It can also generate or give picture to your imaginations, and this is something which hasn't happened in a day. It has taken years of research
Mhm.
to come up with something like this. So I think this is where the key differentiation is to what we are seeing recently, to why there has not been a great development in the AI space for 40, 50 years, right? This AI as a term has not been coined recently. This has been in existence since 1950. But what has happened recently is we are able to teach a semantic meaning behind our language, the words, the pictures, to these models. That is what has radically transformed it. And also, it couldn't have been achieved without enabling it with a great amount of compute power with the GPU. So I think these things combined has really given edge to this AI era, what we are heading into.
Why was there such a big change? I think it was 2022, 2021, 2022 that OpenAI published ChatGPT. And before that, it was just a technological term for many people. It was like Bitcoin back in 2010. Some people talked about it, and everybody thought it's a weird thing nobody can really use. What was the genesis moment in 2021 that changed everything, basically?
I mean, there is no specific event, but if I have to recall, I think it's the paper which really blown the mind of the people who are working in the research, and that's attention is all you need, right? This is the paper which came around I think August of 2017. I think that gave a perspective to many entrepreneurs that this is something we can build upon, and I think OpenAI also capitalized on that.
Mhm.
And isn't it always the case, right, that you always have some trigger points period which suddenly fuels the innovation? So from the application side, I think this particular thing has fueled that innovation, but also in the back end, the compute power has been given to this innovation on which the application is built on, has suddenly trained these models to become more smart, so they are able to understand, they are able to see the data exist on the internet since its inception. And this is amazing. It's like somebody who has read the whole internet and really recommend you something based on that. So we go for information to be searched on the internet, and now information is coming to us.
Yeah, it's funny when I had some podcast about AI before ChatGPT was released by OpenAI, and it was always, yeah, okay, I know that artificial intelligence, Google uses it in the background to recommend movies and clips and stuff I like to me, or Google Search uses it, Apple probably sometimes also in Apple Maps, but there was not really such a moment. Then ChatGPT came out,
Yeah.
and I started using it and thought, wow. So I think this thing can write and I can talk to it, and it doesn't sound like these Commodore programs back in the 80s where you just have a small database. Um, the interesting thing was right after ChatGPT was released, people got afraid of losing their jobs and AI will replace them. And I think there are a lot of misconceptions on the market. Can you talk a little bit about what misconceptions you as an expert see on the market and debunk the myth a bit, what to get the mind straight of people to what they should worry and to what they should not worry?
Yes. Okay. So there are a lot of misconception about AI. So number one, to start with that, you already mentioned in our previous discussion is AI is an hype. It's clearly a misconception. I mean, if you delve down into the numbers, last year itself there has been an investment in generative AI of close to $25.3 billion, which is 9 times to that of previous years, right? So companies aren't just throwing money like this. They really know that they are onto something, and that's when they are investing in. And if you compare this investment in last year, this is 30 times to that of 2019. So especially this last 5 6 years has been very pivotal when we look back from the future. Which is really fueling this innovation. So I feel that this is not true that AI is an hype. We are seeing a real world examples and the implementations and the impact it is driving. So this concept of AI is an hype needs to go away. And people who don't uh, understand these applications and the backends, other people can say that it's an hype, but people who know it, who work in it, will not be able to say it because that's certainly not true. It's a reality. It is here to stay, and it is here to really transform the world we are living into. So that's how I perceive it. Now, another part of your question, which is about the job loss and people are scared. I mean, the vision on the objective of AI is not really to replace human, but actually to help them enhance their capabilities. Look at industrial revolution. So what industrial revolution did by enhancing the physical capabilities of an individual or human being, I think AI is going to do the same by enhancing your mental capabilities. So I genuinely believe that AI is here to help us be more productive, to help us be more smart, help us focus on the real task which can be done by human, and complemented by AI. So this is something I certainly believe that it's here to stay, to help you do more with less. So I wouldn't perceive it as that way. I do agree there is skepticism, and I wouldn't say it's wrong as well, because when you are skeptic about something, you become more cautious and try to do it more carefully. And that's a difference between a caution and carelessness. So we should be approaching AI in a more responsible way. So I do agree to a fact that there are challenges with it in implementing it responsibly, and propagating the benefits of AI in a responsible way. So if we do it right, I think we can really mitigate the negative impacts AI could have. So I feel that it's here to help, but not to replace.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is one of the biggest fears on the market that AI will replace people. Um, I, I'm- I heard there's a similar fear 30 years ago when the internet became mainstream that the internet will replace people. It didn't really happen. So actually, it enhanced people, and I think AI will be the same. There is
Yes.
another misconception that I would like to ask you what do you think about it. Um, The second fear on the market is that AI such as super intelligence that you will easily get bored with humans, and it is just the next step in the evolution. What do you think about such fears when you read about it on the internet?
No, it is certainly smart, but can AI exist without humans? I mean, what's the purpose? I don't think so. So I wouldn't agree to that. It will become so intelligent that it will get bored from the human, right? Look at the social capital we have built over the evolution.
Mm.
I think human to human interaction still holds a great value. There is no way a human can be replaced by an agent and then people will be more satisfied talking to them. There are certain characteristics which are very human in nature, right? Whether it's about intuition, whether it's about emotion, whether it's about belief, the level of trust a human has on other human, right? So we are a social animal and we will remain so. This is something we are not getting away from. So AI will hold its place in our society and ecosystem with an objective to help all of us, with an objective to enhance our capabilities to do more, so that we can really transform the challenges we have in our society existent today. So I think that there's nothing wrong in having another pillar in the society which is there to help, but I don't think so it will get bored from the whole social capital or the people aspect we have built over the years for many centuries. I don't buy to that idea. I think it's an hallucination.
Sachin, I totally agree. I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions that I see frequently for, I mean, I'm now
Yes.
close to 50 and I think for 35 years. Uh, People try to use technology to replace humans. It just doesn't work. Business is
No.
always human to human, and this won't go away. Maybe we can start with at the beginning with a little bit of basic definitions. I think generative AI, everybody talks about it. I have no definition for it. I use the term, but I don't know if it's right, it's wrong. How would you define, how would you describe generative artificial intelligence, what it is to someone like me who just uses the term but doesn't know what it is?
Okay. So if I have to explain a novice or an amateur who haven't had a great exposure to the space and only came to hear about this term generative AI, so there are two aspects of it. I will try to explain. So one is the usage part of it. Now, if I have to explain a usage in a most simplified way possible, I would go ahead like this. Imagine generative AI as one of your very good friend and an advisor who knows everything, who has read every article, who has read everything on the open internet, who can actually provide you the answers you wanted, who doesn't get irritated, and who can help you in any areas in your own language. So imagine generative AI as your co-pilot. Imagine generative AI as your friend or an advisor to help you in the day-to-day task you wanted to achieve. So imagine like a go-to person for any kind of questions you have, and you will get a great response. Now, if I have to explain what is the underlying technology behind it and what is generative AI, right? So this generative stands for that it has a capability to generate a text for you. Now, what it is doing in the back end, it is just trying to predict the next logical word or a sentence to the prompt or the question you are asking. So people, contrary to the belief that it's a Q&A bot, it's actually a completion engine which is predicting the next logical text or a word for the sentence after you finish it. So like a fill in the blanks. So the reason you get an answer for a question, because if I ask a question to someone, the logical thing to follow for that is an answer. So imagine generative AI technology is an engine which is trying to predict the next logical word or the text based on the question you are asking.
So it's then like a parrot.
uh, it will be difficult for a parrot to actually predict. It
Yeah.
might be successful, but it could be based on hit and trial. But what these ML engines or the models are capable is they have a very good understanding of our language, the semantic meaning of what you're talking, and based on that it is predicting. That's why you can relate more to it than somebody just reciting it for you. So it's not just a parrot reciting a thing which you are saying, but it's actually predicting what could be a next logical thing.
So if you understand you right, Sachin, the we have spent 3 decades in feeding the whole human information and knowledge into the internet. LLMs can access this knowledge and feed it into, let's call it just database. And maybe it's not the right term to use anymore, but it's just a term that I learned 40 years ago. Feed it into their database. And when a human then asks a question, they can consult the database and predict the logical answer that fits the question of the human being, but with all the knowledge that's on the internet, that's available in the digital world. Um, you said that AI, if I understood you right, is like a good friend who knows everything or an advisor who knows everything. And I can imagine that when teachers and advisors listen now to the episodes, they get a heart attack because they are, who will need me in the future when AI can do all of this? Why do we still need teachers and advisors in the age of the AI? What's your opinion on that?
No, I mean they have a very important role to play, right? I think this is not there to replace teachers, but actually it is there to help them. So imagine, Christian, you are sitting in your office and you have all these books behind you, right?
Mm.
So imagine if I want to ask you any questions about those books, you will easily be able to answer to me because you have read through it. And also, you are trained based on the information which has been fed to it, and you can also tell me something which you haven't read as well. So, this is exactly the same concept. These models have been trained on the data existent on the internet in the open platforms, and it also understood the nuances of it. And uh, uh, and and this can actually help teachers to be more productive. So teachers can actually delegate some of the task in terms of generating a summary for each students depending upon how they are responding, and let these teachers spend time in explaining things to each children. Or it can help teachers to acquire information. So if they wanted to learn something about it, they can just ask these applications to actually teach them. So it will take a lot of monotonous tasks from the teachers away, so that they can focus more on the real aspect of teachings, and not just on the administrative task which comes with teaching and managing children, right? Because you will not have a one-to-one mapping between a children and a teacher. It will always be one to many. So these teachers needs help, these teachers need support, and these AI systems first time has showed us that they can help these teachers to be more productive. They can help them to be better in quality when it comes to teaching. They can also help them in information, and this is so powerful. So it's not like we are replacing them, it's like we are complementing them, with such a powerful technology.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Teacher, I think it's a great use case to explain how beneficial AI can be and it not replaces the teacher. I mean, do you know Duolingo? The
Yes,
the
I
the
know.
language
I've
app.
used it. I've learned a language from Duolingo. It's a really nice tool to learn languages.
It's a nice practice tool, but it doesn't replace the social experience. There's no social experience on Duolingo. They try to do a good job with trying to bring people together, but it's not the same like having a conversation in real life.
Oh, for sure. I mean, having a conversation is something completely different, right? So this aspect of I think I've read it somewhere, and I genuinely believe that, Christian, that it doesn't always matter that what you say to the people, what you ask to them, but what will remain with them is how you make them feel. And ability of humans to create that impact on other human beings is simply amazing. It's very difficult. Not in today's capability, AI are into a stage where they can really make feel human, that they are talking to a human. It's very, very difficult. I think we haven't yet reached that maturity. So there is no way a human to human conversation can be replaced with an agent to a human conversation, right? If you ask me that who I wanted to talk to when I have a problem, certainly you will get an answer that it has to be an individual, because he or she can understand me better than some of these AI agents and applications. So I don't think so. This human to human relationship uh, uh, will be uh, will be changed completely. It will be transformed in bits and pieces with an addition of another pillar of an AI advisor, but it will not be completely replaced. I genuinely believe that it's very impactful to have a together conversation, collaborate together in person, right? It has a huge benefit for individuals and for organizations.
Yeah, I think, as you said, as an advisor, you still need to know where to look. It's just
Yes.
you get a different answer from ChatGPT in your domain when you know how to ask the right question.
Yes.
When we stay a little bit with the real world applications, I mean, there are a lot of fear on the market, and we talked about teachers and advisors. Where do you see benefits of artificial intelligence? What's the biggest area where ChatGPT or generative AI can be used?
It's actually most of the areas, Christian. So imagine AI as a transformative technology, not just as a vertical to a particular business domain or an area. Imagine it like an horizontal, which will touch in each and every aspect of human life, businesses, societies. It has an immense potential to act as an horizontal or an enabler um, across industries. So there is no specific area which will be positively impacted by AI. And because it's an horizontal, it will change and touch all the aspects of it. But there are a couple of areas where I personally believe it will have an immense impact, and that is in healthcare and in education. I think in education, we need really good help to those teachers, to students. And I think AI can help you achieve that. It will provide accessibility to children's or the kids who wanted to get education. I think if we have a personalized tutor for them in form of an AI, it is going to be very powerful. I mean, I think Nelson Mandela said this, that education is the most powerful weapon which can transform the world. And I certainly believe in that. And AI would certainly play a very critical role in education. I mean, look at what Khan Academy is doing, an amazing work in education, right? And I think a lot of developing countries where the access to education to some of the underprivileged communities is going to be of an immense help. And I think AI could actually help you do that. Second is a healthcare. I mean, we have certainly seen a lot of benefits of leveraging AI in healthcare space, whether it's about analyzing an X-ray, a CT scan, and ability to predict cancers before even any symptoms arise. Look how powerful it's going to be, right? Because the best medication we have for cancer is to actually identify it in the most early stage. And if you can predict that this person is likely to have a cancer, I mean, it's very difficult for human to really analyze this vast amount of data and find correlation in that. I think these healthcare providers can be assisted well with some of these AI applications, um, and and this will help in transforming the healthcare sector completely for individuals and also for healthcare companies. So I feel these two sectors will be immensely impacted by this.
Yeah, diagnostics, that's a good point. Before we dive into the challenges
Krishan, I'll just quickly, can you just give me a second?
Sure.
Just give me a second. Yep, it's fine.
It's fine. Yes, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
I think I just switched on the light because when there was no movement in the room, it switches off.
Yeah, the light was out. I thought it's dark already in Munich. So maybe you're in a different time zone. Before we talk about the key challenges for enterprises, let me ask you one question because I think it's important for education and healthcare. I totally agree in these two areas, LLMs and generative AI. Correct me if I use the terms wrong. Will play a significant role. But there is one thing that bothered me using these tools. These are let's call it false positives. So this hallucination, I think is the right term that I read on the internet. Sometimes these tools generate with confidence. I was impressed with confidence, wrong answers. So when people are not an expert, um, they get a wrong answer and they use it because it's from a machine and it must be right then. They read it, it's on the internet, it must be right. Why does this happen? Why is that possible that such a tool creates simply lies?
Yeah, so hallucination is an interesting problem, or I wouldn't call it a problem, but it's something as a capability built into the system, right? So if we take away the creative aspect of these models, then
It's
the
a
rest.
sorry to interrupt. It's a feature, not a flaw. It's a capability.
I wouldn't say that it's a flaw. It needs to be controlled. So hallucination in a controlled way is actually good to have a relatable response from the models, right? So in some places it could act as a limitations, but in many places, like in a creative field, it could act as a something as a capability. So
Mhm.
hallucination is something we shouldn't be too worried about. We should just be carefully navigating it or controlling it like a dial, right? That's why you have this parameter of temperature, which you can actually modify, which will help you how creative you want these models to be. So in a creative field, you can be a bit more creative and try to then carve out an information out of the creation of text by these models. So it's like looking into a hallucination from different lenses. So I wouldn't call it as something we should be getting rid of. I think it's there for a purpose, and it should be existent, but it needs to be controlled well. So if you see one of the responsible AI features, and we would probably later on touch on that, as part of a design you should be considering is your explainability and transparency in your model, right? So whenever you are building any AI applications, you need to be carefully carving out these things, that can your application be reliable, can it be trusted? And it's very important that when these models are generating response and answers to your questions, it should also be telling you the citations from where it is craving out this information from, so that if you have a doubt, you can go there and you can really look into that and interpret whether the AI application has done a great job in giving you the right information. So this is something as a best practice for enterprises to have, where they need to build these applications having responsible AI guidelines in place. So I would say hallucination is something which I think should be existent in our applications, but it needs to be controlled, and there has to be a transparency and accountability part of it, which needs to be addressed well.
Yeah, you can't delegate the decision making then. This facet, I was not seeing this facet, so I was not aware of that. I mean, in the creative field, you're absolutely right. New options, creative answers must not be right. They must be creative and open the perspective on the same
Yes.
thing a little bit. But in medicine, for example, it can be detrimental when there is a false
Yes.
diagnosis.
Exactly. So in those cases, we need to give more weightage to this reliability pillar, the transparency pillar, the accountability pillar. Right? It's very important. I mean, I touched upon healthcare and education. In healthcare, I cannot emphasize it more how important it is for us to have this safety, security, and privacy aspect of responsible AI in place by design. And there has to be a proper red teaming in place whenever enterprises are developing these applications. They need to make sure that all these guardrails are in place because you are dealing with some of the most sensitive data. I mean, you are talking or you are talking about the health data of an individual, right? It might impact the human life. It can't be more serious than this. So I feel that in healthcare, this is one of the challenge to have these pillars enforced well, to make sure we are not leaving any stone unturned in terms of enforcing it completely by design.
Yeah, yeah. And this comes back to the point that you always need the humans to be in charge at the end of
Yes.
the day for the final decision if the answer is right or wrong and
Exactly.
not.
So this is the job of the red teaming as well, Christian. So testing of these solutions from different aspects need to be well thought through. So you need to have a red teaming in place, which is there to really evaluate the outcome of these models. There has to be a review guardrails in place before the response is being generated. So some of the technologies companies, the big hyperscalers, always have these guardrails in place before the response is being generated to review it. But there has to be a human review as well required, and this need to be tested through before it could be given to the users for consumption. So this shouldn't be an afterthought. This has to be by design in the solution.
When you touch it already a little bit, when we talk about enterprises, I mean, I can easily implement anything in my life. I'm one person and I can do whatever I want. But when I think about big entities like Microsoft, like Amazon, like Apple, just few examples, yeah, that pop up in my mind. What key challenges do you see for these big companies in the adoption of generative AI?
I think the challenges typically these enterprises face are can be can be aggregated into three broad areas, right? PPT, people, process, and technology. The people aspect is like you need to bring everyone along for the AI initiative you're driving. You need to make them believe in your strategy for an AI. You need to make sure they're onboarded. You need to make sure they can see the future through an envisioning. So number one is bringing them along is very important, which is a people aspect of it. There has to be a cultural change aspect of it as well, which is required. That requires you to drive certain initiatives, be it through skilling, be it through transformation initiatives that needs to be there in place to onboard everyone. There's another aspect for the people, and that is you need to make them feel safe about it. There is a lot of misinformation in the open world about AI, the job loss, right? The problem it could have, the takeover AI could have, and certainly people get anxious. So give them an assurance, let them not feel insecure. So if they are secured, they are more ready to move on this path. And once they understand these area well, then all of that reservations will go on its own. So I feel the people aspect need to be dealt in this way with a transformation initiative. And then the process part of it, right? So when you are talking about an organization going through an AI transformation, you need to change a lot of processes. You need to change the internal employee experience. You need to change the the customer experiences as well for the customers you have. So I feel the process aspect also need to be reviewed. And then the technology. It is very important to really evaluate what technology is the right solution for the initiative you are driving. Do not think that AI is a magic wand which can solve all those problems in a go. That is the biggest trap. You shouldn't be driving this initiative because everyone else is doing it. You should be driving it because you feel that you have a technology in hand which can transform some of the business processes you have in place. It can really transform the industry you are into. So try to evaluate that. And if somebody says that AI is cheap, no, it's costly for an enterprise if you don't do it right. And doing it responsibly is as important as doing it. So you need to make sure you have a responsible AI team in place for the application and the solution you are developing. So that has to be part of your technology initiative. And do not go ahead with a technology which you have heard from different people or different friends in your industry that this is the best. Go for an evaluation. Try to do a POC. Try to understand what capabilities it has. Does it have a resonance or not? Are you overpaying for something? So it is very important to have a partner, expert. It could be someone from the industry, it could be someone from the technology companies, but make sure you have a partner who you can trust and can really guide you on the technology initiative. So in a broad way, this is how I would thought through it for an AI transformation journey for an organization.
Let's stay a little bit with the business, with the people part, not with the business part, with the people part. You as a leader, you mentioned that people have different kinds of fears, and when they fear something, they might reject the solution. How do you address this topic as a leader? What's your recommendation to other leaders? How should they deal with those kinds of fears?
So I've briefly touched on that, making sure they understand why we are going through this transformation. So bringing them along the journey, make them part of the initiative. Don't let them just be at the receiving end of the initiative you're driving, right? So it has to be that a leader need to bring everyone along for the initiative. They need to really take the feedback, set up a 360 degrees feedback loop with the people, hear them, and try to incorporate what they are saying. I've also seen sometimes leaders do react to what people are saying. I would say respond to them. Understand their concern, and if they are genuine, and if you really need to address them, then try to have them addressed. This will make them feel comfortable. Also, skilling. If you help them understand the space well with various investment in skilling, I think this is where a lot of those unnecessary confusions in the market about AI can go on its own. People are in a better position to analyze and understand once they know the field. So it's better to have some time spent on skilling them. It's very important. Also, at the last, outline the benefit. Uh, what is in there for them? How can it make them better? How can it make them do more with less? I think if you have a thought process around these things, then the people aspect can be addressed.
So basically, your recommendation is, if I understood you right, that companies should use artificial intelligence, should integrate it to help their employees become more productive, do their jobs better, but also respect the human factor. And
Yes.
what they should not do is this advice, like the internet, stop
Yes.
using it, don't apply it in your company.
Know it yourself. Know it yourself. Spend
Mm.
time in understanding it. We all will be directly or indirectly touched by this innovation. So I would say try to get some exposure to it, understand it, and most of the unnecessary things will go on its own. I can take my example, and with my experience, I'm telling, before I understood AI, I had more negative impressions or a lot of wrong information and perception I had. But when I get into the field and understood it, I realized that's certainly not true.
When we talk about ethics in this field, I think this is an important part. I mean, after listening to you, when I bring it together in my mind, when people use LLMs, basically these machines look into the database and can give then answers based on the information they have, on the data they have. One might think to say, okay, I mean, when I want to manipulate the perception of people, I just eliminate part of the data that I don't want them to see. And in some fields, it's good because you just improve the quality of the answer and narrow the field, like in healthcare, for example. I mean, when you want to have a tool for diagnosing cancer in certain areas, you don't need all the politics and literature and business information into this LLM. You just need cancer. On the other hand, it can also be used that people just don't get access to certain parts of information. And this was one of the claims of the internet in the early days, that it's a free flow of information and democratization of access to information. What are your thoughts about all these discussions on the internet, on social media, in forums, how we should use AI? Should all information be in there? Should part of information be in there? Is it manipulation? Is it not manipulation? What's your opinion on that complex of top? It's not an easy one, I know.
So, Christian, I mean, if I take in context of enterprises, so if you think, or if an organization think that our domain is very specific, there's not much information in the open forum on which these models are trained, then take these foundational models in your own ecosystem, under your subscription, under your own tenant of an organization, and try to retrain them. When you retrain them with the information available to you, depending upon the data you are holding inside your organization, it might perform better. So if you think that the information on the open forum might not be well suited for the use case you have, then you can also retrain some of these models, which will recalibrate their weights in the neural network, and it will have a better quality in terms of responses it will generate for you. And remember it, because you have taken these foundational models into your own tenant, you are not exposing this information in any which way outside of the boundary of your organization. So if you have a very specific use cases, which is very domain specific, typically I see those scenarios in healthcare, I see those scenarios in legal professions, where a lot of nomenclature and sophistication involved are the data residing in your own organization. Retrain these models based on that, and then it will become better in terms of quality. So I would say this could be an approach organization can think about it.
Yeah, that's an interesting part, especially in the legal field, with a lot of confidentiality. It's when you just feed it into ChatGPT, do you breach confidentiality because it's then somewhere out in the public domain, which you shouldn't do. How does, in your opinion, when Microsoft uses basically OpenAI technology, what's Microsoft's approach to that? Is it really possible to just make sure that information does not leave the corporate boundary when they use these tools? Word, for example. I mean, everybody uses Word for
Yeah.
writing notes.
So for Microsoft, Christian, it's very clear, right? We run on trust, and I think people trust in Microsoft technologies, and for rightly so. In fact, one of our key priority is to have this trust in place for the technologies we are building for our customers, right? And it might sound that I'm advocating for Microsoft, but that's not certainly my objective. I'm just telling you the truth. I feel that Microsoft is very considerate of Take an example of this AI technology, very considerate of considering responsible AI as a design pillar behind all the applications we are building. And that's the reason we have been able to build this level of trust with our customers. You mentioned about Word, right? Office 365 Copilot, that's an AI technology, right? And if you have it for yourself, we say that we don't use the data to train these models, right? It's your data is your data. We're not going to use it, and you have the right to decide what you want to do with your data. We are giving you a foundational model and an application as a capability to enhance yourself, right? Microsoft has always been a platform company, so we are not there to be cool. We are there to make everyone else around us cool. So you use these AI applications to do more with less amount of an effort. This is our objective. So I would say Microsoft approach is very clear that all the applications we are building, trust has to be a critical component of it. All the applications we are designing, these responsible AI guidelines has to be part of that by design. So this is what is the motto. Now you mentioned about the OpenAI. Yes, everybody knows that Microsoft and OpenAI have this partnership, right? So this partnership is very unique as well, right? And uh, part of the credit of this AI era could be given to Microsoft and OpenAI for what we have been able to offer to the world, right? The announcement of GPT. And OpenAI models are some of the best of the breed in the world. And you can see that adoption, right? How much time it took for an OpenAI to acquire 2 million or 100 million users, right? And in a very short span of time. And it took many other companies many more years to acquire the same amount of users, right? So you can see the pace of adoption, and it can only happen when there is a quality to be delivered and a company can be trusted. So people trust in Microsoft, and that's why they're going ahead with Microsoft technologies, and we will certainly remain true to that.
Yeah, I disagree to one point that you mentioned. Microsoft is definitely a cool company. It's not uncool. I saw Bill Gates dancing in the 90s and 80s on stage. There are a lot of videos out there. No, it's definitely cool, and it's one of the most important companies in the world. Did an amazing job in the last 5 decades already. It's 70s that Microsoft was founded. Let's stay a little bit on trust and privacy. I think it's interesting because when we think back to the foundation of Microsoft, the general recommendation was your confidential information, you put it on a disk. And if it's really highly confidential, you take that disk and put it in a safe. You don't give it to anybody. Then the internet transformed the industries, and we had suddenly all servers, and servers were not expensive anymore. Every small company could have one. And the recommendation back in the 90s and early 2000s was you have your own server, and you make sure that your server with your confidential information is in a room separate from outside the world, and you need firewalls and stuff like that between the internet and your intranet, and you are responsible for that. Then came the cloud transformation. And this was a little bit interesting for me because I said, okay, I grew up in the old world and where everybody said your data should be in your room at home. And suddenly people said the safest place on earth is the cloud. I say, "Hey, wait a minute. 10 years ago, you said a different thing. And why is the cloud safe?" And now we have artificial intelligence. And whenever I use a Word document and I write a text in the background, it uses artificial intelligence. It communicates probably with the cloud, and all the data goes up there. How do you manage on a technological scale to really make this safe for people, that the confidential information stays confidential and not spreads the internet? How does that work technologically?
I mean, Christian, security is a very critical aspect, right, in today's day and age. So imagine when you want to secure your cloud environment, you can imagine it like various layers of security. So you have the first layer of security with authentication and authorization. Then if you are able to reach that, then you have second layer of security. So first it's networking, then you have authentication and authorization, then the third layer is encryption, and then and the core is also, even if you have an access, to the hardware, you wouldn't be able to, in fact, read that data, right? In our laptops, also, that's the same thing, right? So I think cloud was a necessity with the volume of data we are dealing in and the kind of problems we are facing. We need to have a solution like cloud to solve some of those problems. And security is one of the most critical aspect, I think for anybody, right? So we need to have security by design principle in place for all the applications you are designing, and we need to have this layered security approach for securing your cloud workload. So even if the data you are storing on blob in a cloud, you it's very difficult for anybody to get access to that, right? So I feel that in cloud we are more secured, and a lot of companies, right, like Microsoft, or there are many more hyperscalers, have a dedicated investment and effort to make sure the clouds remain the most safe place for anybody to have their data. And these technology companies are very advanced in terms of having those security guardrails in place. It would be very difficult for anybody else to actually match that. So I feel that that security on the cloud is one of the most important pillar, which I think all the cloud providers are considered as part of their solution design.
But this must be immensely complex.
Very complex, Christian. I mean, I'm not a security expert, but certainly uh, uh, certainly if you dig down deeper through the documentation, whether it's about the level of encryption we have it in place, the encryption of transit of data between the network layers, the encryption at the storage, so which means when the data is stored, data is by default encrypted, which is encryption at rest, right, with the most sophisticated encryption technologies in place. You have the multi-factor authentication. We all know that, right? You cannot just get an access because you have the credentials. So there are many more sophisticated security innovations are taking place, and organizations are leveraging it. So I feel that this field is also evolving a lot, and it becomes more and more critical for us to secure the infrastructure and the ecosystem we have on the cloud.
Yeah, not every brainstorming must hit the internet at the end of the day. So it's writing an email, for example, it's a thought process. You have the first outline, and it can be really harmful when the first outline just reaches the internet and is
Yes.
spread over. We not even need to think about the bad guys in the world, just about principal use cases. So security is really one of the most important things. Before we dive into your personal life and how you evolved as a person and human being in that space, let me ask you one final question to the ethics part. Um, I mean, we are in Europe, and in the US, I think artificial intelligence is heavily adopted. There is a lot going on, a lot of investment in this area, and the response of the European Union was regulation. And the first time that I experienced this regulation is harmful for my life, and I didn't like it, was when Apple decided um, to not release the iPhone 16 with all the features they release it on the US market. And I thought to myself, okay, maybe it doesn't mean a lot, yeah, because it was just small figures. But when we played through in the mind as a mind game, and I just think about these AI features saves iPhone users 10 minutes per day
Hmm.
because it just improves their productivity and they can take out 10 minutes and just eliminate wasted time. Find emails faster, find their messages faster, have support in writing messages where we often you just need some standard, and when you get it suggested, you can move forward faster. And when I thought, okay, this 10 minutes, and I multiplied with the people in the European Union, uh, then I see that this starts getting imbalanced because the US market has this 10 minutes more per person and the EU doesn't. Um, but regulation is important because we don't, as you said,
Yes.
safety and security are important things and politicians need to regulate. Uh, What's your opinion? How can we find a balance in that field of tension? It's not an easy one, but do you have an opinion on that? How we can manage that?
No, I think I don't have a solution to it, Christian, yet. But my my personal view on that is, I think Europe has always approached innovation with caution. Europe in Europe. So like I'm in Europe for last 12 years, and I do realize that Europe want to approach things first in understanding it well, and then creating regulations in place to govern it well, so to make sure that doing right is more important than doing it. I feel that the cautious approach is always good to have. Take an example of the GDPR. I mean, GDPR is one of the amazing privacy laws in place, which many countries across the globe is also trying to take inference from, right? And GDPR has put power again in the hand of individuals in terms of owning that data. And if it is my data, I have rights on that, who it needs to be shared with, how it is being consumed. I have a right to know. So I think Europe has always approached it with caution. It does impact the speed of adoption, but I think doing it right is equally important as doing it. So my view is that I think there has to be a regulation around these things to do it right. So yeah, so this plays a very important role in in making technology available to everyone uh, with right guardrails in place.
It's an important and tough job. It's not an easy job, I guess.
Nope, nope, it's not. And uh, creating those regulations also is a lot of effort as well, Christian, because uh, you need to really thought through it well. You also need to understand the negative aspect of it, and then eventually creating a draft from that impression and how people will use it, misuse it. So I think it's a very extensive and rigorous process. One thing I feel that whenever these regulations are going to be in place, there has to be someone like an expert from the field who need to be part of that committee, who should be helping in driving some of these initiatives, because that is extremely important. So expert from the field of that area know-how will play an important role in doing the things right, and providing the right information for those regulations draft.
Yeah, that's true. You mentioned that you spent the last 12 years in Europe, and before that, obviously outside of Europe. Tell me a little bit more about your journey. Where did you start, and when did you get interested in artificial intelligence, and what brought you then to Munich?
So Christian, I've came from a consulting background, been part of another IT company from India, and then moved to Europe, obviously for business reasons, to expand the footprint of that company in Europe. So that's how I landed in Europe, and uh, I came from India, studied in India, I worked in India in Bangalore. It was a fascinating experience that has made me who I am today. I must give credit to that experience. And my exposure to AI was around somewhere around maybe 12, 13 years ago. Uh, and I was already working in the data field, so I started my work from the field of COBOL. I used to write different amount of codes in COBOL, and then later on moved to BI. And then after that, I tried to get attracted to a lot of data aspects and the data engineering aspect, which is around the ETL, the data management, the data governance part of it. And that's when I started to get involved in the field of machine learning. Okay, now you have the data, you're able to manage the data. Now how are you going to generate insight out of it? Okay, BI is there to help us carve out the insight out of it. And then after that, okay, what's next? And then I get an exposure to machine learning. Then I enrolled myself in some of the courses on Coursera, Edureka, and then a documentation is already available on the internet, and then I did go through that, and then I started to practice it in cloud ecosystem. Then I started to get an exposure to cloud. I went through a training in cloud ecosystem, and then tried to implement some of those learnings, fundamental learnings, in the real world use cases with customers. That really made me confident about acquiring that knowledge. And in fact, after that, I decided to have a multi-cloud knowledge. So I also have a multi-cloud knowledge from another hyperscaler as well, and that really gave me a perspective how some of these hyperscalers are innovating, where the cloud is heading. And that's when I started to explore more into the AI field. And then eventually, on the flow, I got an opportunity to work with Microsoft. Microsoft has always been one of my priority company I wanted to be worked with. I think Microsoft has been doing an amazing job. And my time in India has also changed. One aspect of my personality is that's empowerment. And this is one of the reason I resonated very well with Microsoft, because Microsoft has a great vision of empowerment. Uh, I always quote this example that if you want to help someone, don't just give him a fish, because if you give him a fish, he can be fed for a day. He can feed his family for a day. But if you tell him how to actually hunt a fish in the water, then you can actually be sorted for life. So empowerment is a very powerful word, and I resonated very well with Microsoft, and that's what I'm trying to do since then. So this is what is in a nutshell my journey looks like of transformation. It's been 17 years now, like
17 years and amazing story. So it was India, Europe, and with Microsoft, I guess also the United States.
not US. So it was
Really?
always in Europe. So it was in UK. I was there for 3 years, and then I was in Netherlands for some time.
Mm.
I was in Cologne in Germany, and then now in Munich. So I decided to have Munich as my place. I really love to be in Munich. I really love this city. I love the people around here. We also have a very nice headquarters here. So I love to be based out of Munich, and I want to continue with Microsoft. I love this company, and I think Microsoft is doing a great job to empower everyone to achieve more.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most important companies in the last 4 to 5 decades. I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm really stuck with one word that you mentioned when you were talking about your life, COBOL. I read about it. Maybe I also found the book fast enough. It must be in another room. Innovators, Walter Isaacson wrote about the founder of COBOL,
Hmm.
Grace Murray Hopper. And I always thought COBOL is a ghost of the past and it stays a long over. And did I understand you right? You said you learned COBOL
Yes,
at
so I started
university.
my career, and I did had an opportunity to code in COBOL, briefly into the DTRs, which is like a stored procedures which interact with COBOL. Had an exposure to mainframe systems, and that time, in fact, SQL databases were the very very cool thing. Even today it is, but SQL from that time to today is completely changed. So yeah, that's where started. It was in the year 2008. So it was long back, Christian.
Is COBOL still in use?
Yes, I think a lot of financial institutions globally use it. I think COBOL is one of the finest language when it comes to multi-threading concept, right? The ability of COBOL to handle millions of transactions per second efficiently is amazing. I think a lot of financial institutions globally use it. A lot of code has already been written in COBOL. I think most of it has also been transformed, but if not, then it will be transformed in the future. But COBOL has been in existence for more than 50 or more than 60 years, actually, Christian. I must say. So COBOL has been one of the long-standing technology which has been relevant in some or the other aspect of this technology landscape.
Yeah, Google says 1959, Grace Murray Hopper, back in the days. So
Yeah, so
it's one
it's
of the first one.
it is, it is.
This is why I thought it's gone. It's not in use anymore because the field is so fast
Yes.
moving these days. And when we talk about fast moving, I mean, COBOL is a good example. So when I think back in the 70s, someone studied programming and learned COBOL with the thought, I can use this for the next 50 years. And when I've learned it, I can use it and apply it. Now I think AI is just producing more and more information, more and more data, and it's impossible to keep up with the speed. How do you approach this fast development from the skill side? How do
Hmm.
you stay updated? How is that possible these days?
Uh, One of my biggest challenge and one of my most motivating aspect of my job. So it's both. Uh, I dedicate every week at least 10 to 20% of my time for my learning. As I mentioned to you, this is one of the biggest challenge with a day-to-day job we had to do, but I think this is something has helped me a lot. We should be dedicating time every week for our learning, getting up to the pace to what is happening in the space, and keep yourself updated with that. I've also committed that I will always use at least 10 to 20% of my personal holidays for my learning. I have also committed that I will invest at least 10% of my earnings into my own learning, and I do that. I've been religiously doing it. And also, characteristically, what helped me is my curious attitude, Krishan. So people who are curious will always go very long. So I feel that it is very important to develop these characteristics. I always have the belief that curiosity is the smallest unit of learning. Learning foster knowledge, and knowledge leads to innovation, which will eventually transform. So I approach things in this way. So the smallest things, or the basic thing you should start with, is remain curious about the space, about the things happening in that space. And once you develop that attitude, you will be motivated to take this knowledge to the next level. And this is where you really become a leader in your specific area. Because if you are not learning, then you are really wasting your time. You should be learning via experience. You should be learning what is coming in the future, and you should also be unlearning. Like, take an example, it took me some time to unlearn some of the aspects of my early phase of learning in some of these technological innovations to really get me over it. And like, take an example, like I know how to code in Python, in Spark, but now I have to move my skill set of writing a code to really prompting to get the right amount of code from GitHub Copilot, right? So we need to also develop a habit of unlearning as well with learning. So that was my brief inputs and recommendations to everyone who are looking towards achieving the similar journey.
Let's stay with this term that you used at the end, unlearning skills. And you also mentioned before that empowerment of people is important to you. I can imagine that many people like coding for several different reasons. One might be just a clear structure and you can work on that and don't have to talk with people a lot. So it's really fun and entertaining and do something, and it's problem solving. And I like problem solving. Now you mentioned that you had to unlearn coding to unlock the next skill, prompting. Um, some people might say, I don't want to do that. I don't want to unlearn coding. I just love it. Um, but the world is changing around them and they need to update their skill set. How would you, as a leader, approach this situation when you have one employee or a group of people or a company where people say, no, we love coding. We won't give that up and go away with your AI. It threatens our jobs. How do you approach this situation?
No, you don't have to get rid of that. So when I said unlearning is the way of writing a code, it's not really writing a code I have to unlearn, right? it's like somebody asking you to forget your name. How will you do that? I don't know. So if you know how to write a code, right? I mean, it will help you a lot in right prompting. So nobody is saying that unlearn it, but leverage AI to do more in coding, right? So let me explain this productivity enhancement for developer community with a research report, right? So there has been more than 20,000 companies who are using GitHub Copilot. There has been more than 1 million developers who are users of GitHub Copilot. And there has been a research done on the impact, the positive impact of bringing in GitHub Copilot for these developers, and the result is flabbergasting. There has been an increase in productivity by 55% for the developers, which means they are able to do twice the amount of development in the same amount of time, just because they are leveraging these AI capabilities. There has been an increase in the happiness index of an individual by more than 75%, right? And this is amazing, Krishan, right? So if I am more happier, I'm able to do more. I mean, this is what I have been aspiring to do for a long time, right? Ask a developer if this is the KPI they're going to really impact. They will be the first one to raise their hand and want to start using that. So even if today my company will not give me an opportunity to have a GitHub Copilot, I will find a way to fund this and use it in my day-to-day job. It is very, very important. So the impact is there for everyone to see. It's not there to replace. You can still write a very sophisticated code, but lot of monotonous things you can really delegate to an AI. So imagine in like an AI as an advisor to support you. If you wanted to do some research, you have a GitHub Copilot to help you research on that. If you forgot the syntax of a particular function, you can use GitHub Copilot for that, right? So for developer community, I think it's gonna be really amazing in the future. May I ask you one question, Christian, regarding to this particular thing?
Sure,
What
go
do you
ahead.
think? What do you think is the programming language of the future?
I have no clue. I have no clue. I mean, all programming many languages that I learned, I thought they're all outdated. I have no clue where we are heading to.
So
Tell me.
let me tell you the answer for that. The coding language for the future is going to be English. You
Really?
should know how to ask these models the right questions. You have to be clear enough in asking what you want them to do. You should be clearly outlining your intent, and then you should be able to get the best out of it. It can do a good documentation for you. It can write a very good code for you. It can save you a lot of time in troubleshooting the issues. It can save you a lot of time in testing the application. So why wouldn't you use that, right? And this is where the competitive advantage is also coming for you. You should be able to talk to these AI models in an efficient way. So it is very important to learn the art of prompting. You should be able to understand how to prompt great responses from these models. So I would say to everyone that try to spend time to acquire your knowledge on prompt engineering. This is going to be extremely beneficial. It is like a skill what we all need to have in the past, like logical reasoning, critical thinking, ability to analyze things. I think prompt engineering is also going to be a skill like that, which all of us, irrespective of our work profile, uh, uh, whatever it is, we all need to have a prompt engineering capabilities in place. So I highly recommend everyone to spend time to have some kind of an understanding about this prompt engineering space.
Let's dive a little bit deeper in what you just said. There are two parts for me that I think need more light. One is English as a coding language, and the other part is prompt engineering. So let me start with the first complex of questions. I mean, there are a lot of programming languages. I stopped coding yeah, 20 years ago, it was the early 2000s. And I grew up with Pascal, Basic, COBOL. Then you have this all on the internet, Java, JavaScript, HTML, and stuff like these new terms to get websites online and a lot of database work in the background. Um, People learned that skills because they addressed these different languages, addressed different problems. And you now say in the future, English is enough to
Let me
code.
rephrase it. So it's your natural language is going to be the programming language. It could be English, it could be like my mother tongue, Hindi, it could be any other language,
Mhm.
because these models allows you to ask them questions and to do the task in your own natural language. So the ABC in the future for the coding is going to be anybody can code. And I feel that this is really empowering. If people with a great business knowledge, if people with a great domain knowledge,
Mm.
they are able to write code just uh, because there is a technology exist which help them translate their natural language prompting into a code. I mean, this is very powerful, Christian. Imagine the kind of possibilities it has for all of us. So we shouldn't be worried about that it can write a code. We should be worried about learning the skill to to get the response from these models and write the code for you.
Why is that important?
Because if you know how to ask the right questions from these models, you get a better quality response. Otherwise, you will struggle. So you should be following certain best practices. And this is where the art of learning the skills of prompt engineering, you should be knowing the concepts of what is chain of thought. You should be knowing what is a prompt engineering. You should be knowing some basic aspects of what these models are trying to do when you give them a response. You should be knowing what is a few shot learning, what is a no short learning. You should be giving the examples for these models to mimic the behavior. So I would say prompt engineering is one of the courses or the skills we all need to develop. And it's not like a 0 and 1 answer that okay, you have completed a course, you have understood it well. It is also with lot of trial and error. So you need to practice it as well. You have access to these applications. You'd be it GPTs, be it Copilot. You can go and try some of these fundamental knowledge about prompt engineering you have acquired. Go and practice it there, and then you will improve upon that. Because not because today we might not have, but in tomorrow, I feel, and that's my personal opinion, that people will not only be judged based on their IQ, but they will also be judged based on their AIQ. So
Mhm.
how good is your AI quotient? What is your ability to use some of these models to get a right response for yourself, to do the task for you?
In my world, I'm not right there that I think prompting is a skill. I do understand that being able to write code or to solve a problem with code in C++ is a valuable skill. So you probably need a person who understands to assess a situation,
Yes.
uh, define the problem, come up with a solution for the problem, and then translate it into code.
Yes,
So this
and
is
nothing wrong in acquiring the basic knowledge as well, Christian, about the language, because that help you also understand what these models are generating it for you. So I think coding as a skill will be very relevant and extremely critical. But the way we are coding will change. I see that.
And I totally agree that when programmers can use generative AI tools, they're happy, they are more productive, and it
For sure.
enhances their work. Um, what I never saw, I mean, I heard this very often now, this prompt engineering, that's an important skill. What I really didn't have on my landscape was that when I ask a question to ChatGPT, that this actually is a skill. Why is that a skill, in your opinion?
So imagine it like a person. So if you meet me first time, Christian, you can provoke certain responses from me, and you are trying hit and trial, right? But if you know me well, if you understood what kind of a person I am, how I respond to the questions, then next time, or maybe next to next time, you will become better in getting the response you have from me. So I think you being a podcaster can relate to that. If you know how to provoke a right response, then you certainly are well positioned to get the best out of that time than anybody else. So prompt engineering is like that. We are going into an AI era. Actually, it has already started. And in this era, you should be knowing how to talk to these AI models. You should be knowing how to talk to these AI agents. And if you know it well, your productivity will increase more than what you have it right now. The quality of responses you will get will be far better than what you have right now. So it is all about making you better in leveraging the AI capabilities and AI innovation. So prompt engineering is also evolving, but I think it's must for all of us. Like an horizontal, it doesn't matter uh, which which company you are into, what profile you have. You should be knowing how to leverage these AI innovations for your job.
Yeah, that's a good analogy with podcast hosts. I think the best podcast hosts like Lex Friedman, Joe Rogan, and many others out there, it's the kind of questions they ask and how they tune in to their conversation
Yes.
partners, how they prepare for it. For example, William Green, he's part of a podcast
Hmm.
about investment. He says
Yeah.
he invests 6 days in preparation for a podcast,
See.
and this you feel it when you hear
Yes.
it, when you see these podcast hosts. And generative AI, treating generative AI is pretty much, if I understood you right, the same like preparing for a podcast episode. So you need to understand how to ask questions. You need to prepare for the certain field or problem that you want to have solved, that you ask the right question to the machine. And this itself is a similar important skill, like for podcast hosts learning to ask questions, or for coaches to learning to ask questions.
Yes, there is a lot of similarity exist in this both the scenarios, Christian. You need to condition the guest who are coming to your podcast, right? You need to tell them, okay, these type of responses will be great for me. You need to be sounding interesting when you are giving responses. You need to be telling about this particular topic. This is exactly is the same system prompt is doing. It is actually telling these models what kind of a responses you have to give, right? And accordingly your weights will be manipulated in the deep neural network of transformer to give you these responses. So there is a lot of analogy similar bit to what a podcaster is doing with guest, to what you will be doing in your day-to-day job with these AI models.
I have two follow-on questions to this complex prompt engineering. Let me start with the first one. The first one is, in your opinion, what is a good prompt? What are the elements of a good prompt?
So you need to be clear on the action you wanted these model to take. So write it as action. This is what I want you to do. You need to be clear on your intent. You need to be telling the AI application of what kind of a persona they need to acquire, and what is the tone and the response should look like. And then probably it's always a good idea to give it some examples, which is like few short learning, right? So give it an example so that it will try to mimic that behavior. It's also important to give the feedback, whether you like the response or whether you don't like the response, right? Because these models are also based on reinforcement. So the feedback loop. So when you provide them a feedback, they will know that they have done great or they haven't done a great job. Also, you need to be leaving a very less amount of an assumption for model to take. So be as specific as possible in your request, right? So do not just go with a sentence and then allow model to assume everything. So be specific in your request is also extremely critical. So if you have all these things as part of your prompt, so for the people who don't understand prompt, what I meant by that is the question you are asking these models, the input you are giving to these models are called as prompt. So if you have these aspects as part of your prompt, you yourself can actually see the difference in terms of the response you're gonna get from these models. So this is what is my high level recommendation. Go through a prompt engineering courses. They are available free of cost, be it on LinkedIn Learning, be it on YouTube. You can really go through that and practice yourself, and try to compare also the responses, because when you see it, then you have a different impact or an impression. So try to have a simple prompt to a model, see what it responds, and then give it a more specific and a sophisticated prompt, and then you see the quality of response improves immensely.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So basically, people should train to use these
Yes.
machines. It's a given, so it won't go away,
No.
and the usage will increase, and it will probably affect all industries in
Indeed,
future.
indeed, Christian. I'm seeing it each and every aspect of enterprises, uh, or the real world use cases, and how individuals are consuming this information. I
Mhm.
mean, it's completely changing, and the biggest benefit we see is in the productivity enhancements of individuals and enterprises. I think this is where I see the biggest benefit.
This leads me to the next question. We met at this event at the United Nations where we talked about access to artificial intelligence, in basically. I mean, if it transforms all industries, and if everybody needs to use it in future, it means that people who have access to these tools early on have an, let's call it, unfair competitive advantage compared to people who don't have access to these tools. So basically, how should we address the situation on a global scale?
This is certainly there is some merit to it, I would say, Christian, because a lot of people, they have no idea. A lot of underprivileged communities have no exposure and idea about that, right? So why would they be at a disadvantage? Now, for that, I would say it is very important to have a public-private partnership in place with some of these market leaders, right? Be it Microsoft, be it any other companies. It is very important to have this partnership, and I think governments also need to create a internal board. I think it's the high time that all the government needs to have a chief AI officer. All the enterprises are already thinking about having a chief AI officer to actually drive initiatives like this in an enterprise. Similarly, in governments, also they need to have a chief AI officer who would be anchoring these initiatives and making sure how the accessibility of the AI can be available to the communities who are not having access to it. How can they be onboarded onto this AI era? Be it through education, be it through community based skill learning initiatives, be it through funding to have them onboarded on some of these platforms, and leverage the knowledge from some of the internal experts who are working in this field. So I think this will be extremely critical to drive. But to start with, try to have an internal chief AI board in place, which will help in driving these initiatives. And I think governments need to do that. It's very important, so that there is not a huge gap getting created again because of uh, uh, this difference in availability of these high tech technologies to certain communities and not to everyone else, right? Because I genuinely believe, and in fact, this is where I will quote one of my inspiration who unfortunately passed away last week. You must have heard about it, Christian, right? Mr. Ratan Tata, right? He unfortunately passed away last week, and he told in one of the in one of the briefings he was giving that if you need to move fast, you can go alone. But if you need to go far, you need to walk along, and you need to be together if you want to walk far. And certainly, if we all wanted to transform a lot of challenges we have in societies, be it with education, be it with healthcare, be it with adoption of technologies at the ground level, I think we need to make sure that these technologies can be accessed by the people who don't have access to it. So we all need to be really doing it together at the same time.
Yeah, that's true. This is also a call to action for governments in principle to make
Exactly.
sure, I mean, kids in school, what's the right age in your opinion? What's your recommendation if a politician would ask you, when should people start learning how to interact with AIs? What's a good starting point?
I mean, definitely not in kindergarten, maybe after in high school. But it's about first enabling the teachers with this information and help them propagate this idea and let everyone be aware about it. But after in high school, I don't see why there is no reason that kids should be exposed to this particular concept at a very high level, and help them understand how can they leverage it for the future. I think education also need to have this component of an AI learning, probably after in high school. I feel that because that's when you also had an exposure to mathematics, right? And eventually, if you see deep down that the foundation behind all these innovation and model also relies a lot on statistical mathematics, right?
Mm.
So if you have an exposure to mathematics, this is the right time you also get to see the application of mathematics in the real world, right? I mean, uh, this is first time we have seen that the Nobel Prize, if I'm not wrong, I think the Nobel Prize has been given to two of the finest the finest minds in our field for the AI, right? And that too in physics. I mean, people would say that, okay, why the Nobel Prize has been given to Geoffrey Hinton and Sir Geoffrey Hinton and Sir John Hopfield, right? Uh, because they have the innovation which has completely transformed uh, uh, transformed the AI landscape by having the laws of statistical physics into the picture, right? So people will say that why in physics is related to AI? It's all statistical physics. So they were able to carve out the relation, and with maths, they were able to provide it a meaning or a function with which you can derive the information out of it. So I think everybody should have an exposure after in a high school, probably to this area, so that they can also learn the fundamental of maths, but also see the real world application of mathematics, and that is AI.
So basically, if I repeat what you said or what I heard, is that your recommendation is that people should learn the basics the old way. So they need a basic
Yes.
understanding of different kinds of fields. And school is doing a great job globally in that
Yes.
area. Without having a basic understanding of biology, ChatGPT would not help. So
Yes.
or chemistry or mathematics or statistics or any other subject. University then is the right place to start using AI.
Yes.
People have developed brains, developed minds, developed
Yes.
opinions, and they can apply ChatGPT or the first job, which also puts then more responsibility on the companies because not everybody goes to college. These days, some people say after school, okay, I have enough and that's it, but they will need to use ChatGPT and generative AI. But the question I would
Also,
like,
one thing I want to call it out here as well, Christian, it is also very important to nurture these young minds
Mm,
with the responsible AI. It is also important to teach them how to use it responsibly, right? Like any other technology we are teaching them. It
mm.
is very important to carve out this information with clarity to them that it is it is a powerful technology and it needs to be used responsibly. You should be knowing it enough before you try your hands out, so that you are not misguided, so that you are leveraging it for the right purpose and leveraging it for the betterment for the society and for the world. This is also an important aspect of an AI, needs to be taught well. So it's not only about the technology, but also the guardrails around it are equally important to be taught in the university or in high school education.
How would this university of the future look like? I mean, I started in the 90s, and basically the idea of learning and studying was I take a book, I read it, then I talk to the expert at my university, and he judges me or she judges me. And if she or he thinks I'm right, then I passed the exam. And if they think I didn't learn and I just made things up to sound good in oral exams or in written exams, I just write rubbish, then I failed. With AI, it could mean that also at exams, at the exam level and at the preparation level, AI is integrated in the process. But this changes the entire system then. So how does a university in the future look like with AI? What's your opinion on that?
I mean, my personal opinion is, Christian, that we all in the future probably would have an AI assistant who we can ask any type of questions, who can help me in understanding the concepts well. And this assistant will not get irritated when I ask it 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, right? It will still explain to me the concept in a better way every time, uh, without even getting irritated, and is available for guidance, uh, 24/7. So I think the future of education is really bright. I am really positive about it. From accessibility point of view, I think technology will penetrate and make education available to everyone. I also feel that the quality of information what is being provided by these AI applications to help everyone understand the concepts is going to be really, really good. It will have also a great role in childs with child or kids with accessibility needs. I think these AI applications are already creating a huge impact in terms of sharing the knowledge with them as being their assistant. I feel that the future is very bright for education, and this field will completely transform with this AI technology. So I strongly believe that education will also transform a lot in a positive direction, and AI will help us do that efficiently.
Yeah, totally. I think the personalization of the content so
Yes,
that people can learn easier, and it makes it much
exactly.
more accessible. In the past, you had a book, and the book was the book, and the teacher was the teacher. Now the teacher can use AI to model uh,
Yes,
the the content specifically to the personality of each individual kid.
exactly, exactly. And lot of those tasks uh, from the teacher side, from administration point of view, could easily be delegated, and so that they can focus more on child social development. They can focus more on uh, developing the social capital among the students, right? This is very important. Uh, and and they can also, whenever kids feel comfortable, can ask these questions to an AI assistant or an advisor, and will be able to understand it better, like a revision. So I think education will be available at any time to anyone at any place. I think this is the future looks like.
Sounds amazing. I mean, when I look at the latest developments on the robotic side and also on the gadget side, I read that the Apple AirPods are now in use for people who need hearing aids.
Yes, yes,
Maybe in future AI can automatically translate words and also makes the words in the same language easier understandable and tailor it to the person so that it comes across in the right way? Is this really such a broad tool, AI, that it can be, I mean, it sounds like it transforms everything.
In fact, you are also raising a very important point indirectly, Christian. I think one of the thing about AI which is not very promptly propagated in this information era is the impact AI is driving in the accessibility space, right? So for the people, it's very difficult for the people who unfortunately have a disadvantage not to see, have some issues with their eyes. Then some of these applications which are existent today uh, are actually speaking the environment they are going through, helping them navigate through the environment by seeing on behalf of them and actually telling them through the voice. I mean, this is so powerful for them, right? So there are a lot of people in the world who have accessibility needs, and technology could help address some part of it, right? So it will help them navigate through the world, and they shouldn't be at disadvantage because they unfortunately had some incident, and they should be living with the same amount of connectivity what has been offered to other people around them. So technology, AI is playing a very important role in accessibility, and there are application existence today which will help them understand the world around them. So I think this is also in a space where AI is contributing a lot. So AI for good initiative is also something very critical and also not being highlighted a lot. I see that.
So the after our conversation, so my perception of AI shifted a little bit. I mean, on the internet, I read a lot of criticism because there is a lot of investment going into this field, in the cloud area. I read an article on the weekend that stated that NVIDIA estimates the investment in cloud infrastructure to 160 billion in future per
Mhm.
year, and that the replacement rate will be every 2 to 3 years. And when I look at some profiles of venture capitalists, they say, yeah, but how can you make money with that? I mean, they
Hmm.
pump a lot of capital into this, and startups don't make money with that. From what I learned with you is that you have to shift the perspective a little bit. So AI will be integrated in a lot of existing
Yes.
solutions. And it won't probably not be so many complete new inventions, but it will enhance everything that we use right now. Is it the right understanding?
Yes, it will enhance a lot of productivity. It will bring in a lot of synergy and efficiency into the ecosystem. There are a lot of new areas will also open up because of the nature of technology. But to start with, I think this is how it will shape in the future. And I do agree there's a lot of uncertainty, but don't you think this is where, Christian, we have a lot of excitement as well? Because if we know what is coming, then where is the excitement? So we always have this with any kind of transformation or innovation we have seen. There is always a sense of anxiety, worry, and okay, what's coming further? How big it can be, right? But this is where the emotion of excitement comes into the picture. We genuinely believe in something, we have seen the application of it, and I see no reason why it will not benefit all of us and the people who are in dire need of this. And we being at the forefront of it, it's also a responsibility. So the reason I'm speaking with you, Christian, is also to really propagate the right information
Mhm.
in the world, right, about AI. So people should be listening to information coming from right sources to really create their own perspective that will help them balance the right perspective and be positive about the future. Now, it's really an amazing time we all are living into, and we will remember this era as one of the transformative era for the humankind.
I think that the transformation will be more subtle. When the internet, new technology, new browser, yeah, we have something tangible that we can look at. It's new, and some people made money with that and started venture funds. Then, when I look today, I mean, podcasting, for example, 5 years ago, I started with Adobe Premiere, and it was basically a cutting tool. now I get a transcript, a full transcript when I upload the video file to Adobe Premiere Pro.
Yes.
It's a use case of artificial intelligence, and it makes Adobe money because they charge simply more when they add more features per month. So the cash streams are already there. It's not in a way that people need to really invent something from scratch and new business models. They enhance old business models and just increase the
Yes.
prices.
So enhancing the business model and also bringing in more efficiency, right? So the example you are saying very similar to that is in the Teams. If you go, you have a capability also to have meeting notes generated by Copilot for you, right? You don't have to write everything. It can also summarize it for you. It can also act based on those action items to create a task for everyone in the team, depending upon that, right? So imagine how powerful it is. So you can focus on talking and inferring information, talking to people, and then let somebody make the note for you, and then later on follow up with you. So this is exactly the right thing you said, that it is transforming the way we all are working. The way we have been living our life will also change in the future. But I think isn't that the beauty of the innovation? It changes the way you live in the future. So I'm very positive about that. And about the cost part as well, yeah, I do agree, Christian. Cost is certainly going to be a very important aspect. But let me tell you one of the industry reports. So every $1 companies are investing in the AI initiative, they are able to generate $3.5 worth of a return on that every dollar they have spent. And this is a great return on the investment. There will be a cost to an organization initially, but that will balance it out gradually. And this cost, there is a reason, right? Because these AI models or the AI infrastructure need to be set up with some of the best of the breed hardwares in the marketplace, right? And that requires companies to fund these AI innovation, and for that companies needs money, and that is exactly what happening in the world, where you need to have an AI infrastructure in place to support some of these innovations, but that needs to be funded. So yes, there is a cost to it, but I see that in the future also that will come down as and when we become more the people in the ecosystem or the companies who are at the forefront of it are innovating and coming up with new innovations for setting up this in a more sustainable way and setting this up in a more efficient way to reduce the huge investment, so that the cost from the consumer side could also be reduced.
Yeah, I mean, this Copilot example is tackling one of the most important problems in business. I mean, I remember endless discussion about who writes the minutes after a meeting, and make sure it's someone sends it around it. Now you can automate it and delegate it. You just turn on a microphone, you get the notes automatically. You can structure it before that. What do you want to have covered? Which tasks should be sent to whom? And the emails then end up directly in the mailbox with a task list. And this is how it enhances efficiency, and companies will pay for it, I'm pretty sure.
And how important it is to think about an inclusivity aspect of it. So you have different people from different region and different language background coming into a meeting, and then if you hold a meeting in a particular language, you sometimes do not include everyone because they don't speak your native language. Then you can also translate the transcript and give it to everyone, and they can really translate it into their own native language, right? How powerful it is for inclusiveness. So that's why we are saying the sophistication of this AI technology has really making a landmark change in the way we are working and the way we are going to approach our work tomorrow.
Sachin, it's fantastic talking to you. I just checked the time and we are already 2 hours in the conversation. It's amazing how time flies. Before I ask my final questions, is there any topic that I did miss in our conversation that you would like to talk about and tackle before we wrap up?
No, I think you covered on it, but maybe I just want to add one more thing how people can start. It is very important to start your skilling journey on AI. And for the people who are looking forward for that, they can also reach out to me on my LinkedIn, right? You will be posting that as well. I would be happy to empower you with the information and the knowledge. And also try to enroll yourself to some of the courses, be it on LinkedIn Learning, be it on any other third-party platforms, right? Udemy, Coursera, edX. There are many of them, right? You can go and enroll yourself and try to spend time on the learning. So before you create an opinion and a perception about anything, by listening, dig down deeper into that to create your own perspective and learn it by yourself. This is what is my recommendation, and also and a possibility for people to reach out to me for any help or guidance. I would be more than happy to do that.
I will link your LinkedIn profile in the description of the podcast episode every time when I post a clip. So I encourage people to reach out to each other via LinkedIn, via direct messages. And you're a frequent user of LinkedIn, I guess.
Yeah, of course. And people who are not on LinkedIn, yeah, come to LinkedIn.
It is Microsoft as well. Let me ask you my final question, which I carry with me now for 2 hours. I didn't want to ask it at the start. You're working for 17 years in artificial intelligence, and you have really deep insight. You were in consulting, you work at Microsoft, and you managed a lot of projects in 17 years, for sure. My question to you at the end of this conversation is, what was your most exciting and fascinating project in the field in the last 17 years?
Uh, there is one fascinating one, but I haven't worked on that, which is my favorite. But I'll not talk about that. It's related to my car.
Mm.
But what I see is the the impact content in the content marketing space, the campaign management as well. So there are really big companies who had a process of initiating a campaign management and creating a nice digital video for these campaigns to advertise some of their new initiatives. And from the time they conceptualize it to the time it goes into the market, the time it takes is around 5 to 6 months. But with these innovations, in just a week, they were able to create it and roll it out in the market with such fascinating and amazing videos. And you won't be able to recognize whether it has been created by an AI applications or it has been created uh, by the media companies for shooting it for many years. But I think in campaign management, I have been part of some of that, and it's fascinating to see how much faster time to market they were able to achieve with this AI innovation. That's clearly a use case for productivity enhancement and do more with less. So I really like that. And like, take an example, my personal one, Christian, I said that, like, why I have to wait for a movie like Avatar. I'm a big Avatar fan. To wait for 10 years, right? You could otherwise, if it keep on going with the same pace, then in my lifetime I might only be able to see 5 or 6 avatars. I want to see 20 of that. Now I think with AI incorporation, we would be able to see in the future a lot of amazing movies being rolled out in a faster way than what it is today. So there is a huge future lies ahead in the entertainment space as well for all of us to see and witness. And yeah, this is one of my fascinating project which has blown my mind.
Yeah, it's definitely a good example, a great example to what you said about this marketing campaign. From 6 months, teams
Yes.
work for 6 months in 1 week. This
Yes.
is just a demonstration of how productivity will increase in the
Yes.
future.
Yes. Yeah. And yeah, with that, Christian, there's nothing else for me to mention additionally. And feel free to reach out to me or for anyone else. I want to thank you for your time and interesting discussion. Time flies. I really did not realize it's been 2 hours. So thank you very much for hosting me here and providing me an opportunity to share my personal perspective with you and your audience.
Sachin, thank you very much for your time. I enjoyed every single minute of our conversation, the preparation, our calls and discussions before that. And I'm looking forward to staying in touch, and let's revisit the future of AI in a year or so and see how the space has evolved and advanced.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it, Christian. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
wish everyone else also a very nice day, depending upon where you are joining us from. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Christian, so much.
Sachin, have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.
See you